Everybody, DayTraderRockStar, and if you haven't figured out by now, I am on vacation this week, and I'll be back next Wednesday, Thursday morning, Wednesday evening. I'll try to give you an update. Hope everyone's doing well. We have a crazy market. When I'm gone, the market tends to, I don't know why, but sometimes pull back when I'm going on vacation. But we did have a nice bounce. And I want to go over some setups. I want to go over the watch list from last week and kind of update you on some of my positions. I've been monitoring down here. I did take off my snowflake. We had a great trade in that, and the market looks very interesting here. So I wanted to keep in touch. I am doing the watch list on my laptop, so I don't have all the bells and whistles that I normally have. So it might seem a little odd. Just bear with me. I'm going to start off by looking at the HPS watch list that we put out for this week. I put out for this week, and we'll just get right to that. Now. We'll just start from the top here. This is on the top of your members dashboard. You just go to the watch list, and the video typically accompanies this, and we discuss all these stocks. So here we actually have Clorox. I'm just going to go straight down the line right now. This one we were in last week, and as you can see, we have defined on the HPS watch list your buy zones, your profit zones, and your stops. Now, for all just for the newer traders out there, maybe the newer members, the buy zones have to be, buy or short zones have to be triggered before the stops go into effect and the profit zone goes in effect. Sometimes you're going to see what's called watching. Sometimes you're going to see what we call just a green dot. Sometimes it's going to be a orange or a yellowish dot. The green dot means that the position has been taken. The gold or the yellow dot means that the profit has been hit. If it says watching, that means it's still active and it has not triggered yet. And if it has a red dot, it means its stop has hit. So let's start off here with, again, go back to the Clorox. And here we are. This one, like I said, we were in this one a week or so ago, and it actually went right up to our target and hit our target. And now it's pulled back. Now, I always continue to go back and look at some of these previous trades because lots of times we have what we call our primary trade setups, our HPS zones. In this case, it's a channel breakout and a rotation or coil, stochastic here. A lot of these terms you will hear me talk about on the show where we have a series of lower stochastic bands and then a breakout. And that's exactly what happened here. So, and again, I like to watch for a first pullback and try to re-enter on these. So that might come further on in another watch list. So next one up here is ATSG. This is Air Transport Service Group, and they do a lot of logistics at airports, and they actually work. I think they have a big contract with Amazon. As you can see, we had a buy trigger here. And the buy trigger never hit. We actually pulled back. This is on the 60-minute chart. You can actually see we kind of never got through that green line. We pulled back, and now we're starting to move back up. So we're actually looking for a breakout of that buy trigger, which will break us out of that consolidation and bring us right to our target. So it's currently active right now. All right, next one up on the list here is Packaging Corp. You see with that green dot there, PKG. Again, these are all usually quality names that we put on the watch list. And in this case, this was a breakout and a first pullback with a rotation. If I zoom down here a little, you can see that the stochastics are underlined in that line there. This one, let's take a look at it. Broke our buy trigger, and we're almost to our profit zone. This is a great setup, absolutely fantastic setup. I call first rotation pullback after a channel breakout. Now the channel could be just a trend line breakout, which we did, and you can see how we pulled all the way back down here. And we pulled all the way back down, and we got down to the 20, actually we got down to the retracement trend line, this old trend line, and then of course the stochastics at the time were oversold. That qualifies for an HPS setup, and from that point on it's been going up. And this one's still very bullish because the market has pulled back a bit over the last few days, and this one has shown relative strength. So this one probably is going to continue to move higher, even though we're going to hit our profit zone probably next week, this upcoming week, maybe tomorrow. I think it goes even higher than this. So this actually is a great setup. and that probably should hit its target early next week. Now, MKC, another great one, was all over on this one. This one, we ended up trading into earnings. I held it into earnings. I took some profits before earnings, and then we held some into earnings. And as you can see, we came right up here and we actually hit our target data earnings. And from that point on, it's actually pulled back. Now let's pull back into the buy zone. I took off most of my profits here. I'm holding a contract, still holding a contract, but the trade is considered to be already triggered and hit. Now I've been in this one multiple times, and you can see that the buy trigger here, sell trigger, buy trigger, sell trigger, and I would, again, watch this one. If it, for whatever reason, rotated back down to this trend line, by next week we'll have a better view of that, and I'll probably send a better update on that. APD here, air products and chemicals. You can see that has a green line on that, and we just have to continue to update the chart. So I just push that little green, that little arrow. And this one, APD, looks pretty good. It hit our buy trigger. Didn't really sell off with the market. Stayed way off the, it's off the stop. It's actually in a perfect spot right now. I like it. Our profit zone's above us. Looks very good. Continue on. That's still active, with the green dot meaning that it is active right now. PRGO. This is probably one of the weaker ones that I didn't really, I ended up getting into because it had such a long, drawn-out downtrend for a couple years. This qualified as a breakout of this downward trend line in the first pullback. You can see that first rotation pullback here, and the stock here pulled back slightly. So you can actually see we're holding above our buy signal here. Currently long this stock, and I think we're going to move this on. This is one of the weaker stocks because of the extended downtrend, but I took it based off of my HPS setup. Sometimes you don't, I take these setups because they work out so well. Next one. CSX here, railroad. Now that one was a split adjusted thing, so we're not even going to look at that one. That one's actually coming out. Baba here actually was on the watch list, but as you heard, there was a lot of issues with China on this. So I put this one on there. We never activated that. I actually took a swing trade position on this. I'm holding 40 shares long term on this. And you can actually see it's pulled back. But I'm keeping this active right here. So we actually going to keep this green line as active. I'm going to hold on to this. It's holding right now. It's holding above that stop. I will probably activate this trade with a buy trigger at 214 at this point. I kept this one just in the watching phase because I had a longer term trade on that. It did pull back on the news on China kind of cracking down on some of the stock market issues, the IPOs and stuff. It's really put a lot of pressure on that. Had a decent bounce. Kind of neutral on this one, a little bit more dangerous. We're going to fly by it right now and go to the next one. Still holding that. HEI. Now you'll notice on some of these I have buy triggers that are underneath, and in some cases, as you can see here, it just moved up into our profit zone without hitting we're not getting down to our buy zone. Just we missed it. We missed it by a few pennies. That's why I didn't activate. Sometimes I'll have some notes on here. We're talking about the rotation. This actually looks quite good. I would continue to look at this as a very positive trade and look for that profit zone to be hit, even though it's not active because it never pulled back enough to activate it kind of gapped up the previous day when we set the alert. It just gapped up and it's been chopping around here. And it looks really good. So I might actually, even though I'm going to be down here on vacation on Monday, this is one that I'm actually looking to add to, or get into, I should say. HEI. Now here's one I am in, FISV. And let's take a look at that. I was hoping for, there's two areas to look for here. Potential buy zone below us and the buy trigger at 110.70. Now you can see we actually are right in between both of those levels. It hasn't hit our buy trigger yet. It hasn't hit the potential buy, very close. It's right midpoint of this level. It's really midpoint. I'm in this one. I did take this position early on. I'm holding calls out, I believe August calls on this, maybe even out to September. And I, again, still like it. Might even want to lower the buy trigger on this down to 109.70, maybe even 109, 110. I think you get in a little early on this instead of waiting for that 110.70 buy trigger. All right, let's go to the next one. I'm going to try to make this short and sweet. Now, Boeing, have the Boeing set up. Here's my Boeing. The Boeing's interesting going into this week. Boeing has been a non-performer. I told you, right when I got into some more Boeing, they had a cargo plane go down in Hawaii, and we had this big sell-off. And then well, actually, it was probably over here. Let me see, actually. Been in this one. It was right over here. And then it's kind of bounced back pretty good. Now, this is an interesting one because I want to actually show you a different chart on this. Now, Boeing, there's a lot of lines on this, and not to get, I do a lot of charting on my things. I'll try to clean it up for you a bit. I have a couple levels. This was acting really well. We almost had that breakout. And then we had some news of the plane going down, just awful news on that. No one really hurt or anything. It was just scared. And there were some other things. And then, boom, on, I believe this was on Thursday, had a big reversal day, big reversal day on this. And this was an announcement that China was looking into testing the Boeing again in China. And we had this huge reversal. And then the follow-through day, another 2 points higher. And if you take a look at the Boeing versus the airline stocks, they tend to be working very together. So the airlines, even though they're what we call a recovery play, all the airlines have pulled back here. Delta, and they all are shown as divergences right now. So if we look at it as divergences, I have written down on my sheet here, airlines, Delta Airlines, American Airlines, you name them, Southwest Airlines, all of these have that low and that fast lower low and the big pop causing these divergences to pop up. So this is all under the 200 period moving average. Delta is a DAL underneath the 200, but the divergence. American Airlines, AAL, down right to the 200 period moving average, but all giving us these divergences. We would make a lower low and a very slight higher low in the stochastics. Now Boeing is holding at 200 and way above the 200 after a big bounce on this. Big bounce, has the same type of setup, but relatively speaking, I would have to say that the Boeing is acting much better than the airlines, and I think this is actually a great sign for Boeing going into next week. There's a clear downward trend line that cuts through that 243 to 245 area. I think we get through this. I think this is the low on Boeing, the 200 period moving average, which brings us down around 225. I'm really liking the Boeing here. I'm not going to aggressively add to it. I think I have about 6 calls. I'm not opening up my account right now, but I have about six calls on this going out to August, September. And I really do like the position I'm in on this now. I think we break out here. I think we get to 260, 275 will be a target on this. 275 will be a target. Going back to that old chart back here, we still have, you can still see that my target up here maintains to be up to 275 to 285. So I'd move that target down to, definitely around that 270 to 275. I think we get there. No problem. So I'm pretty good, happy about the Boeing at this point right now. Now there is some other ones here, the Teledoc. Let's take a look here. some of these older ones, we did take this trade. That was just, textbook. It came down just to kind of show you what I'm looking for. Nice pullback to the lower trend line, a nice move up to the profit area. This is kind of the first pullback. Now this trade is done for us. Really nice trade. And again, I would always recommend looking back at the HPS because they have great charts. I have great trend levels and channels on this. And for whatever reason, we ended up getting back down to a lower trend line. You want to continue to, just take that same type of trade. Now let's jump over to some maybe possibly new ones. And I'm going to shorten up the watch list because of the situation. I don't have all the tools of everything. So I just want to kind of update you on some things and go through these really fast, all right? SYY, like the divergence here. Big divergence, like it a lot. Nice downward trend line. I'll try to set these charts up later tonight on the HPS site. All right. Even though I'm on vacation, I do want to be able to take advantage of some of these and make sure you're on top of them too. So around that $78 level would probably be a good trigger on that. But let's just know that we're discussing these and they all look pretty good at this point. Disney, I'm a big fan of Disney. It has that downward channel. We talked about watching Disney on the breakdown and the first rotation back. So you see this little rotation, pull back to the trend line, big pop. Now these are pretty big pops. This is like 170 to 177. And, sometimes I hate chasing it at this point. But this, I was at Disney actually just yesterday. And I can tell you even Universal Studios, which I believe is owned by, what's that owned by? CBS? Anyway, Universal was packed. Disney is packed. Doing research. That's what I like to do. I'm always doing research. Just counting people. We're going to jump past that. And we're going to go to this one. PCAR. It's on the lower trend line. Like anything where we get the oversold level. Beautiful divergence. Low here, lower low here, much higher low here. It's not running away. Heavy construction, farm equipment. Looks very good back above this trend line. It looks really good with a stop. And anytime we have that divergence, all you have to do is put that stop under the divergence low. In this case, it would be around 85. All right, so 85 on a stop on that. PKG, I think we went over this one. Yeah, we went over that. There's some really good ones here that I'm not in. I'm thinking, wow, these things haven't even pulled back in the recent market 2-day pullbacks. PRFT. I haven't written down so I can do a little bit more research tonight so I can learn more about this company. This thing is extremely strong. And I have I have a feeling one day we're going to look back and it's going to be $120. Kramer used to do a kind of a thing saying if it goes over 80, it goes to 120. It's the 80-120 rule. So this is just breaking through that 80 level. And I could see this just continue to hold at 20. It's under the radar. It just ticks higher. I think we have to get in on this. I think you got to get in on it as a safe play, as a core holding. Do a little bit more research on it just to make sure we're familiar with the setup. CRNC, same thing. Had a gap up. I like, probably an earnings gap or some news, and it pulled back. Now it's holding the 20-period moving average. You start to hold the 20, it's a great sign in this environment. So if something holds the 20, very easy to put a stop underneath the 20-period moving average. Something to consider on that one. PRGO. We talked about Snowflake. I ended up taking my trade off on Snowflake. Snowflake exploded higher. It's just because I was walking around, I think where was I at the time the Snowflake popped, and I was just getting into the park in the morning, and it was taking off, and I was monitoring it, and then I ended up scaling out, and then I texted Paul. I hopefully passed that on to you. I said, Paul, tell everyone that I'm out of my Snowflake, and and I took it off close to the end of the day, the rest of it, just because, hey, you know what? That was a nice move. It was over a 20-point move. It does look like it's going to continue to move higher. I've always liked Snowflake. I think it has, great future. So, but I am out of my position on that. MKC, McCormick, we went over that actually. Just some notes I have here. Pay safe. All right, so there's some that I'm holding. I just want to go over. This one kind of broke down. It's starting to move back up. Kind of a little upset with how it played out. I definitely thought we were going to get that break out of the 40-15 area, and we didn't. I'm still holding some calls on this. I'll watch it closer at this point. That's one that's not performing too good. I do have some pay safe, and pay safe is pulled back. Very curious down at this $11 level. I like the 2 days bounce. I like that we closed the gap. I feel we're very close to a bottom in this zone, so I'm not adding to it. I'm very disappointed with previous anything that's attached to a SPAC. But for this one, it does look very, very good down here. I actually like it enough to maybe buy some calls going out a little bit further, maybe out to December and stuff, maybe the $12 calls out to December. I want to look at that tonight and make a decision for that on Monday. I do have some small ones. I'm not going to go over ISR, not doing much. KYNC, it kind of popped and then pulled back. And again, these are specs, not real serious. Put some money in it, seeing if they're going to work out. The ITI is interesting. With a breakout at 775, it got up to there a couple weeks ago and it's pulled back since down to, that's 200 period moving average. I haven't given up on it. I'm holding it. It's a cheaper stock. I kind of like it. And then there's a couple other small ones that I'm holding. The VTGN, which, I just, we're rolling on that. Remember, we're in this one like under $1. It's $3.13. PRA, Merck. Oh, and the Merck, MRK, another one I do like here. And, that 79 area would probably be a buy area on this. It's pushing up against the downward, this rising trend line, holding this pretty good. I like the Merck. They're working on some more COVID stuff, like some pill treatments for COVID. That's it. That's a wrap on my list right now. Like I said, airline stocks have shown some good divergences. Oh, take a look at one more here, LVS. LVS has gotten down to close to the lower trend line here. And that's something really interesting. That's gotten that bounce. So between Boeing, which I hate to put on that, saying that I really do like how Boeing's acting with the other airlines. I do think Boeing is going up from here. There's some other ones I think that are bottom. The pay safe, I think, has a good chance that it was a bottom. I kind of like the Las Vegas Sands down here, but I'm not going to take a shot on that. Merck looks good. Oh, and the FFIV. Well, we did F. What was that? What is that one? FISV. Ah, messed it up. Get over that 20 period moving average. Let's just get this thing going. I thought it would be acting a little bit better. So that's another one I'm holding. I think we went over it. It's hanging in there pretty good. It's a little different on the stochastics at this point because of the, it's holding up here pretty good, which I like. I had a kind of a reversal candle. That'll be on the 5-minute. Early morning pre-market to reversal here. We kind of gapped down and then moved higher and then chopped around and then looked pretty good. So that's going to be a wrap on this. Like I said, hope everyone's doing good this market day. Appreciate Paul covering for me, and I hope everyone's having a great week. I'll see everyone early mid next week. All right, and if hopefully I'll get back to you again if need be. I'd like to try to get something out there, maybe on some updates. If I do take any trades, I'll get those passed on to Paul and he'll post those in the room. All right. Have a great one, everyone. DayTraderRockStar signing off.